parties sell their promises to the electorate. One way of doing this is media advertising. Last Saturday, the communications regulator ruled in favor of the SABC in separated disputes with the Democratic Alliance and the Economic Freedom Fighters political parties in decisions about the appropriateness of some of their ads. Well, here to talk to us about the standard advertising procedure is advertising guru and perhaps the man with the coolest name in the business, Groovin and Chabaleng. Groovin, how are you?
I'm okay, Liam. Good morning.
Good? It's lovely to have you. Welcome to the program.
And thank you.
This has been quite a year when it's come to advertising. Really, it's been, I'm not sure if we've seen this in previous elections where there's been so many issues around the adverts that have been put out there and wanted to be broadcast.
You have to take into account that, 4 or 5 years ago, it was a different time. Then 5 years later, the more political parties, they are competing, and they want to get the share of voice that from the consumers, or from the eligible voters that is going to be voted. So you will see a level of competitiveness that will be coming out from the industry, particularly the political parties.
Okay, let's talk about the advertising in general when it comes to the elections. Are there a separate set of rules governing election advertising, or do they fall under just the general set of rules when it comes to any form of advertising?
In the industry, you have that advertising industry. It's a self-regulated advertising industry, and under the auspices of the ACA, Advertising Standards Authority. Where all advertising agencies in this country, they are all members. We are rated to almost about the top 10 advertising agencies in the world. It's a highly competitive. So what will happen in normal instances, you'll find that we will get a brief from a client. The client, normally they will have 3 objectives, whether to create awareness, inform or educate. Then the creative team, the strategic and the client service will conceptualize, come up with the creative ad, present that particular ad to the client. The client will therefore approve that particular ad. After approving it, we'll take that script and send it to ACA. ACA will approve it before we can even produce that particular TV commercial. So you will find that, just to give you an example, that in the beginning of this year, 2014, there were about 100 complainants that have been sent to ACA. Out of that 100, 28 the advertisement were withdrawn by the ACA.
Okay.
So because of the media agencies said also they are part of the ACA, they are not obliged or obligated to fly that particular ad. When it comes to political parties, because the political parties, they are governed by the IEC. The IEC takes the authority in ensuring that the ads are being placed and also being run correctly.
If we look at a couple of these adverts that have been in contention, we look at the EFF, we look at the DA, why then would other broadcasters play the same adverts that the regulator has actually deemed inappropriate? Is this allowed?
No, it's not allowed. Once the regulator, let's just take an example of the DA ad. The SABC says that they will not go into flight that particular ad, and the DA objected it. But the IEC took a decision that that particular ad did not follow the procedures that are being stipulated by the IEC. And in that instance, the ad was withdrawn. And so there is no broadcaster that is allowed, because now the IEC that has taken the decision not to fly that particular ad, no broadcaster will be allowed to fly that particular ad.
Yeah, okay. So that's the general rule. That's the way, they are going. What are your thoughts about the adverts for this particular campaign when it comes to the elections? Have you found them very creative this year? Have you found that that they've been pushing the boundaries, the political parties?
I think they've pushed the boundaries, because let me just give you an example of also the DA ad, where they have used the the men in uniform, the police. In normal instances, what will happen is that we will seek the permission that if we have to fly it and we have to show any footages that are related to the police, we will go to the police and ask for their approval that before we can even fly that particular ad. You are not allowed. That it's like the, let's take for instance SAA. SAA has got almost about 2,000 cabin crews. But those particular cabin crews, and if you have to create a television ad or any particular print campaign or a poster, you have to get their permission because they are the employees.
Yeah.
You are not allowed to use them from a commercial point of view. You have to seek our permission that as well before you can even produce that particular TV ad or a print or radio. So
Yeah.
in this instance, what we are supposed to do is to get the permission from the police to say that, we're going to use this particular footage. They're referring to the police because any particular member of the police, he's got the right that if that he's seen his footage has been used or his image has been used as a policeman, he's got the right to say that, you know what, I was not consulted.
Have they got the right to sue?
They've got a right to sue.
So they've also got a right to sue?
Yeah. If the individual has been used without seeking their permission, that particular individual has got the right to.
Just finally, I know we're running out of time, but just, does a media house, does a broadcaster, a radio station, whatever, have the right to decline to use an advert that's been given to them? Even if it hasn't gone through any regulatory process and the Advertising Standards Authority hasn't said anything, but there is an advert that a broadcaster feels, I don't think we can run this, I don't think it's a good idea. Does the broadcaster have that right to do that and make a decision like that?
No, they don't have the right. They have to go to, they have to either, from a commercial point of view, that ad, it needs to be sanctioned by the ACA. That in this instance, from a political point of view, the IEC needs to take that particular decision. But the broadcaster has no right to say that they're not going to run this particular ad without necessary authorities that have been taking the decision to say we cannot run this particular ad.
All right. Interesting times we're living in. So as of next week, we'll go back to shampoo ads and dishwashing soaps, I suppose, from electioneering, which has proven to be very, very interesting. But I think what's so interesting is that whether an advert is banned or not these days, when you have social media and you've got YouTube, I think it gets more views than it would if it's broadcast these days. Just the interest is there, and if it's banned, I want to see it. I want to see it even more.
So there's a different rules.
I mean,
you can place it in YouTube.
Exactly.
The YouTube is not governed by any particular authority.
Yeah, and they can go out there and watch it. Groovin, thank you. Thanks for talking to us. I think enlightening a lot of us out there when it comes to the Advertising Standards Authority, when it comes to political advertisements, when it's for the elections, that falls in the domain of the IEC. Remember, we have got Pansy Tlakula coming in to talk to us in the second hour here on Morning Live. Well,